beautiful.
Oh, well, so do you, darling. You look gorgeous. So
It
awesome. It's so nice to connect. I love these kind of connection moments.
is great. That's what the whole goal is, trying to get
Hmm.
people connected. And
Right.
as a, as an entrepreneur, you kind of want this kind of, interaction, talking to people.
Hmm. I keep losing you. Your voice goes in and out.
Really?
Yeah. Like half a sentence disappears.
Is that good?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Let's
Okay,
see if
awesome.
it doesn't do it again. That was weird.
Awesome. Awesome.
I was like, okay, I see lips moving, no words are coming. So good. I like to actually hear you.
So I would like for you to kind of introduce yourself before we
Mhm.
hop into the whole entrepreneur thing, to kind of introduce yourself to the audience. And so I'll give you the floor to do that. And
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to answer all the wonderful questions. So I'll just dive in and give you a little snippet. I'm Jacqueline, and I have a matchmaking business that I have been professional matchmaker for just over 11 years. So we just celebrated our 11-year anniversary, kind of crazy. And I have been an entrepreneur since the beginning. I'm one of those, I always say, if you got a blood transfusion for me, you'd wake up and want to start a business because it's in the family blood. We just do it.
uh,
And it makes it really fun. And I'm very spiritually gifted. So it was my spiritual gifts that kind of brought me to the matchmaking. And I've just continued to grow it over the years. My agency is Discover Love Matches, and we're based in the Pacific Northwest, but I have clients all over the country. So it really makes it nice. And especially now with such a virtual world, I can have clients wherever and whenever.
I
Great.
know.
Yes. So good.
Which is awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction.
Yeah.
Guys, feel free. You can, message her any kind of question you want. She'll be happy to answer you. But now we're gonna dive into like all the crazy question that I sent.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. They're great questions.
Awesome. So how did the idea of business come about?
Exactly. It's a good one because I have a history with, supporting people in business and supporting them on their love journey. And because of the spiritual work I've done for so many years, I had a lot of spiritual clients that were coming for guidance of like, how do I find my person? Where is my mystery man or mystery woman? And what is it? And I would get visions of actually who they should be with. I could see them with someone, I could describe the person, and then I'd send my client on their merry way and say, okay, go do it. And they'd be like, well, what? And they needed more support. And so they kept bugging me and begging me to just be their matchmaker. And I literally went even on a date with someone who I was like, you're really cool, but other people should know you're not for me. And then I'm like, oh, this is what it's about. I need to be a matchmaker. And so within 1 week of that date, I started my business. So it was all heart based and it just took off. And I had so many spiritual clients that were grateful for me to do it. And then the rest of the world started to learn about what I was doing. And it was very purpose driven and has continued to be. So it's
Uh,
really fun to see people together.
that's great. So you envision, you see it, and
Yeah. For people that come to me for more spiritual guidance, some people are like, just do your mojo. I don't know what it is, just do it. And other people want it on a deeper spiritual level. So the people that come for the more deep spiritual connection and really surrender to my process, then I can feel the person. I actually get visions of who the person is and their name. I mean, I've even had it where I've had sessions with clients and I tell them the time of year that person's arriving and they do. And it's really powerful because it's just lining yourself up. But then I can go, oh, this is who you're supposed to be with. Like when I'm talking to someone, I'll get their match coming in my head of like, oh, this is who they're supposed to meet. And if they weren't in my agency, they'd never meet that way. So it's really neat that there's a deeper purpose other than, hey, you're cute. There's more
yeah,
to it. So yeah,
yeah, that is fantastic.
it's really amazing and fun. Mm-hmm.
So what was your key driven force to becoming an entrepreneur? The key that, that drove you to that? And
I have to say it comes down to I admire people that can do a normal schedule and start work at 8 and end at 5. I've just never understood it. It's not for me. I'm grateful people do it, thank goodness, because we need the banks to be open, we need the stores to open. But I work on a different clock, and I like to be in control of what it is that I do. And so being an entrepreneur is only normal. Like when I was younger, I did childcare
Okay.
extensively. I had a huge daycare business. And then I did Mary Kay for 12 years and drove a pink Cadillac. So, like, I love that freedom that if I got a wild hair at 11 o'clock at night, I could do my work and do what I want versus going, okay, now I have to wait for the schedule. I got to go work. And I really like taking, 3-hour breaks during the day when I want to. So, I don't know how people do a real job. I admire it. It's awesome. Just not my thing.
To you, it's really difficult, like trying to kind of follow what other people are doing the 9 to 5. It's really
Yeah,
hard. It's not in your blood. It's not.
it isn't. It is not.
You can try so hard. It is.
Right. Yeah, I tried. They never lasted. I had one job in high school that was like a yogurt job to, like, sprinkles and all that fancy fun stuff. And I'd always find extra things to do for the owner. I was like, well, I could go get supplies. I could go and, create this room in this part of your building differently. And I kept coming up with different things. And I was like, even working a job after high school hours, I still kept changing it up. And it's just never have I ever done a normal job. It's just, I don't know how people do it.
Not for you.
Kudos to those that can.
So how did you come up with the name for your company?
It's fun because the first name I had was very spiritual. My angels came up with it. It was intuitive matchmaking, and it was amazing. The domain was there. And then as the years progressed, I was like, okay, I need to reach a broader audience. And I've changed it a couple times, but I've had this name for majority, and it's Discover Love Matches. And it was one of those, I was taking a walk and talking with my angels, and I was like, I just wanted to be really clear. And it's like, yeah, Discover Love Matches. Like, it is exactly what it is. I've definitely had other business names where you don't know what I'm doing. And so I wanted to make it very specific. And it was obvious that you discover your love matches in my business.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you raise funds for your venture?
Well, that is actually a great question because I had just gone through a divorce. My ex had a thing for actually paying any of the additional expenses. And so and he wasn't seeing the kids much. So I was never getting a break. So I had to go through bankruptcy. I had cars repoed. I had probably less than $50 in my bank. And I found a coupon code for my domain so that I could buy a 1-year domain at a discount. The site I wanted to use gave me 30 days free. So I could do that. And then I started my business. I literally had that little of money. I was getting assistance. It was tough. I financially was not in a good place, but I was in a spot where I had to make a decision to make a difference. And to know that I had so little money in my home and in my bank account, and that I had gone through all of that to still start a business. So I didn't have capital. I had investors later that profited very well because I made great money once I got going, but I literally had cars repoed and everything right before I started. So you don't need a lot of money. And especially now with the internet world, it's a pretty powerful experience to go through when you really do go, oh my gosh, life circumstances happen and you don't always have the resources. And people keep thinking they need this giant capital, and you really don't
Yeah.
for certain things, obviously. Yeah,
Hey guys, so do you hear that? You don't need to have all those big financing, whatever for you to get started. You can
exactly.
start
Yep.
out with anything you have, you can kind of push your way through and get started. And there's so much resources out there.
So many for sure.
You just need to find the right people that you're kind of around, the people that
Mhm.
kind of guide you through that and how to find it. But there's so many resources out there, which is
Yes. It's taking action. I think the big thing, like I had no money and no extra, but nobody knew I was struggling. They thought I was doing great in life. They had no clue what was happening behind because I kept positive And within a few months, I had someone say, "Hey, can I invest in your business?" And it was like, "What? I never even thought of that." And so it turned into a really positive experience for both of us. But it wouldn't have happened had I come from a place of desperation. It came from a place of abundance. So that's a huge part of where people, I think, get caught up in not realizing their own potential with what they already have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Serious. Wow, that is, yes, thanks
Yeah,
for that. Because a lot of people need to actually hear that. I hear a lot of
right.
people asking questions and that, like, how do I get started? I don't have any money. So that is
You
good.
don't need it. Find a coupon code, get something for free along the way.
So right now, how do you build a successful customer base?
It's nice because what I do is unique enough that I don't have a lot of competition.
Mhm.
Being a matchmaker, it's a different kind of person than a dating app person. There are people that use dating apps, but they tend to get burnt out. They want more personal. So it's targeting on what makes me different is what helps bring in the clientele. I
Mhm.
had a friend who set up my SEO, which I highly recommend getting really good SEO because I
That's
never paid for advertisement. My overhead is very little in that area because people just type in the right words to find my site. So keeping that extremely current and specific helps so much. I'm always blown away with how much business I get just because people Google for it. And so it's finding ways to show that you're different. I
mhm.
think people forget as business owners what makes them so unique. And they tend to think that they're competing with others, and there's just nobody like you. So if you treat your business as special as how awesome you are, then you can actually attract the right clientele. And people really don't want to be in a cookie cutter business that they're supporting. They want something that truly comes from a heart based space. So pouring that in will attract. Plus, the more successful you are, more people refer their friends. I just got a referral this morning from someone, and it's just, oh, I heard that you do this. And she's like signed up already for something because of another person. So reward your clientele because they're going to be your best advocates and cheerleaders. And then they refer the people that never try to wheel and deal you because they already know you're amazing. So they're not coming from a place of, oh, what can I get from her? It's more of like, oh my gosh, I actually get to work with this person.
Mhm.
So it's how you project what you're doing and how it's coming across makes a big difference.
Awesome. When you say reward, like, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like,
Well,
word.
yeah, that's a good question. At times I've had referral specials, like if you refer someone, you get a little extra time for a session. And so I'll do that occasionally, but mostly it's just being such a great advocate for your client,
Mhm.
taking the time and not rushing there, whether it's like a coaching or if you have a product that you do, sometimes surprising them and giving them a little extra something, and not with the expectation that they'll refer, but everybody wants to feel special. So as I say, I used to do it specific, like, oh, you sent me someone, now you get an extra 15 minutes. Instead, I kind of focus more on just loving them up so much that they want to share it, that they want to tell people about you because they feel so good with you, they can't not share it.
That is great. That
Yeah,
is.
it's a lot easier than tracking who gave what, unless you have like affiliate links.
So, how do you market your business and which tactics have been most successful for you?
Yeah, I've been actually working with a business coach recently to stop and go because I think, how do I market differently? Because I've been fortunate that I haven't actually had to work at it much because people are looking for what I offer. It's nice to have a business that is unique enough, but it's been around long enough that people have a desire to have a better service than just a dating app. And so I do get a lot of those people. But what I'm finding is helping to explain to people how life could be different and better by using my service
Mhm.
is, you know, those pain points are crucial. I'm so positive all the time. I forget about the pain points until a client brings it up of, how many hours and days they've wasted on bad dates or, things that are very frustrating because they went out with somebody who catfished them or something negative happened. And I have to remember that this is happening to a lot of people. And so educating them on how life could just be easier and smoother by using my service. And I just do a little bit of social media, and then I have the newsletter, and then I use Meetup where I have events. but I then send newsletters to the meetup people. So even though we only do quarterly events, I'm educating them the whole time and painting a picture. People need to feel like they belong wherever it is that you are. So whether it's you're selling a lotion that is just the best in the world, they need to actually be able to visualize what would it be like to have super soft hands.
Mhm.
And with mine, obviously it's love, and they need to feel that love feeling like, okay, this is what it would be like to not go crazy going on weird random dates with people from dating apps. So it's really painting a picture to where you get to their emotional level, and that will trigger people to take action more than anything.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of culture exists in your organization and how do you establish them?
I think that is really a big one. I've kind of watched the type of people that are drawn to my services, and there's a kind culture, there's respectful culture, there's more educated culture. And that's not like education of what degree you have, it's more about they're aware of the world. They're
Mhm.
not narrow-minded people. And I find that because I have hoops people have to go through to join. I have to meet you, I have to talk with you, I have to know who you are. You can't just be some random profile of a weirdo on there. And so it creates a huge difference. Like in 11 years, my clients have told me how many great dates they've had, but never has anyone ever said they've gone on a bad date or somebody was rude or fake, because they know I have a standard. I'm always like, I'm mother to everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. I'm the mom of all my clients. And if they misbehave, they're out of there. So there's an expectation
Mhm.
that people are appropriate. If you want to be a liar or rude or ghost people, then go to a dating app. You're not going to bother with mine. And I'm going to not tolerate that. And so that culture has created so much respect, communication, and people are just safer to be vulnerable. It's already scary and hard enough to be single. You might as well know you're in a safe space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so good to kind of establish that from the beginning and people know what they're kind of getting into and they have that
Exactly.
who they're coming to or what to expect. So that's
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, very, very true.
So how many hours a day do you work on average on your
Well,
business?
do you want the honest truth
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, the honest truth. I way can help
Yes.
other people
I
out
don't
there.
People work way too hard at their businesses.
Really?
I did in the beginning. I really had my moments, and I love when my brain gets going. I'm like, "Ba-da-da-da-da-da." But once you get the foundation of what it is that you're doing, it's
Mhm.
really important to not work that much, because you need to process, you need to step away. You can only reanalyze your verbiage and your videos and your content so much
Mhm.
that you need to also come from a place of abundance, because then you are going to deliver that to your clients. So I probably work 3 to 5 hours a day on a good week. I don't do that much, and like I don't do appointments on Fridays. I'm only doing this because of your invitation.
Mhm.
I make it really clear. I have found I like to work for 4 hour increments, sometimes three, and then sometimes I don't come back to work. I just end the day. Like I'll work only in the morning and then I go do other things. And it's allowed me to have clients know they'll be okay until they get my message. I'm not letting them control when I get back to them. And so I can just start my mornings with checking emails versus trying to do it throughout the whole day, or, oh, I got to go back. I got to get back to this person. I did that in the beginning. I over delivered to the extreme where it was so hard to do anything. I was tied to all of these expectations. So then I started to realize I don't have to that much. It's not that complicated. So yeah, probably about 3 to 5 hours,
Wow.
about 4 days a week. And
That's
occasionally I pop on for some extra if I've got a new idea, or, client needs a little something. But yeah, it's funny. I talk to friends all the time that are in business, and I'm like, you work way too hard. And it's kind of like you can over pedal the wheels and get nowhere.
I guess it kind of depends on the type of business too.
Very much so.
Right? I think so. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's good to know. I guess when you
Yeah.
establish and stuff like that, you can kind of delegate or
Yeah, absolute delegate. I have a service that answers my phone. So I am a huge believer in that. We should not be answering our own phone calls, even though like I don't like answering the phone, period. So I've always had an assistant. I just they shouldn't have direct access to you right away. It's part of that filter. Plus, I have a service that does it from 6 in the morning till 7 at night. I'm sure as heck not going to be answering the phone all those hours.
Yeah.
And so they can answer, they can schedule the appointments, they can give me a heads up what's going on. And it helps so much. That's all. It's very important to delegate what you don't need to be doing, and also know when to turn it off so that you can come back ready to start again. People just work so much they forget to take a break, and then they're coming from an empty tank.
I know.
Yeah.
People like me.
Yeah, our brains just get going. It's very, very true.
Can you describe or
But
outline?
there is hope at the end of the tunnel once you get established.
I know. Can
What
you
was that again?
describe, and I was saying, can you describe an outline?
It kicked out. I think it was more I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Can you
An
describe
outline?
Yeah, an outline of your typical day?
Oh, okay, yeah, it wasn't your voice, it was there was an audio thing.
Okay.
So yeah, basically I start the day with checking emails. I go through, I'm really big on opening all my emails. So I one time had hit that, insane thousands of unopened emails in my Gmail account. And I went through and I just opened everything. So I always know I don't miss an email. And so I just start from the bottom and work my way up before I do anything else. It's always do that after I check my bank account. And then I look at where I'm at on the clientele. Like I have 2 sets of appointments. I have people can call me to get a 20-minute free appointment. And I do like a 2-hour window availability about 4 days a week. And so sometimes that might be filled up with people that have scheduled just to ask me how my services work. And then I have another calendar that does the paid appointments, the client's appointments. And so I have those staggered for 2 to 3 hours during 2 to 3 days a week. And so I have those based on my own thing. Like I don't like to do, as I said, on Fridays, I never do appointments because it's the weekend. Hello. And then I used to work weekends, and then I actually had a really great client, and he was awesome. And I said, he was a very high level client. And he said to me, when I go, okay, if you need me, just send me a message. I'm totally here for you for anything you need, feedback, you need advice, just, get a hold of me on a Saturday. And he stops, he goes, Darlene, if there is anything I need on the weekend, then I need to just take that time and you'll be there on Monday. I will wait. And he's like, you work hard, I work hard. We need our weekends. And it was so helpful to have an executive stop and remind me that he's just paid for a service and he doesn't want me to use my weekends. Yeah. And so about twice a month, I will leave like an hour window open for someone that just wants one of the quick Q&A calls because of work schedules. But I don't do full appointments. I don't do very much on weekends because of what my client actually taught me. And it helped me to be more balanced, to have that rhythm for what I needed. So, it's really kind of funny what your day is like. I usually pretty much work from like 9 to 11. And then if I have client appointments, so that's where the 3 to 5 hours a day. And it's mostly just keeping up with my website, making sure things are current, doing a new video. And then I do emails sometimes Monday through Friday, or at least I do about 3 to 5 emails a week to my clients. And that's part of that marketing, communication, planting seeds and stuff. But a lot of times I'm done by 11, maybe by 1.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how being an entrepreneur, does it affect your family life at all?
Actually, that is huge because my kids grew up with me being an entrepreneur. And so I was a solo parent with my first child. So I was already taking care of him. I added more daycare kids, So he saw and grew up with all these other kids in the house. And then I, built my other businesses. And it's wonderful because my oldest is a full entrepreneur. Like he's always thanking me for teaching him. He's an artist and music creator and makes designs that he embroiders on clothing. And he's tried to have a normal job, and he actually did longer than I did, but they saw it. The kids would see it. And I remember when I started the matchmaking, it was funny because with the makeup, they could see with Mary Kay that, okay, this lipstick, people put it on, it made sense. And so they could understand why I do these parties and get togethers. And then when I started doing the matchmaking, they were even the ones that go, Mom, you sell air. And I go, what? And they're like, because there was nothing tangible. They didn't have like see me put in a basket of lipstick. And then, you don't know what's going to happen, who they're going to meet, what's going to be with that. But then they started to watch and see, oh, you're supporting them, you're encouraging, you're giving them this perspective. So they love that I can create. So we always talk about how I raise them to know how to hustle. Like if you need some money, you're going to find something to sell to the right people, and you're going to be able to give them something that they feel value. So my kids never feel like they can't make it work in life. They always achieve what they want because they watched it, and they're not confined by some schedule. They watch how I do what I do. And like when I was in Mary Kay, there were a lot more team deadlines and qualifications. So they watch that. And then they watch what I do now, where I don't have the same month end, deadlines I have to meet. But it taught them how to speak up. And even
Yeah.
when I did the Mary Kay, I was actually shy. And then I had a daughter, and I was like, I don't want her to be shy. So I started pretty much on her first birthday, I signed up to join Mary Kay to build up my confidence. And then I would have her make the delivery. She'd run up to the door and knock on the door. She loved it because she didn't know any different. So she built that confidence, and my kids were part of it. They would package orders, they would stack things on the shelves. They were all part of it. So they actually saw how I made money. I'm a big believer that our children and family members, they might not get our dreams, they might not understand what we're doing, but
Mhm.
it's super important that they participate, because I think what happens too often is people go to a job and they are complaining and grumpy and they're tired and they're missing family activities. And then they come home and they're exhausted. They have no interaction skills. They're just getting food to go. They're not making good
Yeah.
meals, and then they wonder why their kid doesn't want a real job. It's like we have to know that we're setting an example. So as entrepreneurs, my kids learned that whatever they wanted, they could make happen. They could sell air too, and they could sell lipstick. They could do what they wanted and create that from whatever mattered to them. And
Mhm.
they thank me all the time. So I personally think it's the best thing to have somebody in the family that is an entrepreneur, because it doesn't limit. You don't have to have a certain degree.
No.
Not all these special qualifications unless it's necessary for your particular business. But
Mhm.
it really allows them to get a voice and know that, they
Yeah,
can create what they
absolutely.
want.
It's kind of like that in my country. It's like you don't get to go to work 9 to 5 job. You wake
Yeah,
up in the morning, your parents going on the farm, you're going on the farm. What they're
exactly.
doing, you're
Yes.
doing what they're doing. You're bringing that rice. You're going to the marketplace and go sell
Hmm.
it for you to have money, to kind of survive on
Right.
that. So you don't
Right.
have to get up like you're getting up as early as 5, but you're not going to work for someone. You're going to work for the company like you guys
Yeah,
work with, and they kind of do that. I strongly believe in that, but there's
totally.
a lot of people who do not believe. Even my husband, he doesn't believe that. He believes in 9 to 5 job,
Yeah,
and I disagree with that. So it's like
totally.
constant roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like you just need to go and do that.
People like the 9 to 5 where it's like I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, I get these benefits, but you pay for that. That all comes out of what you're being paid. Where when it's your job, yes, you have to hustle and get out there and talk to people, but
Yeah.
you get to decide who you work with. You get to pick your own coworkers. Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I say. I say, I'm not going to change. This is who
No.
I am. And I'm going to keep
Yeah.
it. And I failed. I started in Oregon
Hmm.
and I failed big time. I lost about 45K and it was bad, but that doesn't make me to kind of stop.
No,
It's,
you're
it's
just trial and error. It's a process.
and it makes you think that, okay, well, maybe I should kind of do more research in what
Yeah,
I'm doing and get all the facts together for me to kind of
exactly.
one. And I keep telling people that, yeah, we're not gonna stop. It's in here.
Right.
You can change. And also, what
I love it.
motivates you?
What was that?
What motivates you? Your
What
mom.
motivates me, you know for me, obviously it's love. I've realized that I have a true bleeding heart. I want to help everybody, so I've been trying to work on, I can only save only so many people, but
Mhm.
it's that feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment when I see a couple. I was just actually, I matched one of my friends, and I met up with her and her boyfriend yesterday, and just to see them going, they never would have met if they weren't in this, and he had been a client, and I just adored him. And I was like, I wonder who. And then we're talking, and I'm going, oh my gosh, you two need to meet. Now they've been together for a year and they're living together and doing great. And that feeling of such satisfaction of what my hard work, I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes that nobody really realizes with anybody's business. So I always say, anytime you're talking to an entrepreneur, just compliment them for all that they're doing, even if you have
Yeah,
no clue what they're doing. But it's
absolutely.
that feeling, that it's that ripple. For me, when there's a loving family, everybody benefits. The extended, like this weekend, they're going to go visit her relatives and meet more family members. And it's like they get to see the joy and, abundance that she has now that she's so in love. And, there's been a baby been born in my agency, and people keep in touch with me. Some people lose touch, but the growth of who they are, because they know they found the absolute best person for them,
Mhm.
allows them to really be vulnerable and in the relationship. People are so bad at communication when it comes to loving a partner and really showing up, that I feel very motivated because I can talk them through it. The amount of things that people mess up on, and how many people would have broken up if I didn't keep them together through those early dialogue steps,
You
is
know,
what motivates me. I have so many clients that would never have gone on a second date unless I smacked them into place to do it, and now they're married. So that's the ripple long term that I really keeps me going when it's tough.
that's awesome. That's great. So how do you, is it, yeah, how do you generate new ideas? How does it come
You know, it's a big one because I've been doing this 11 years, and
out?
I have my moments for sure. I think one of my big parts is I step back and find out, what do I like? What did I like? And often the wheel isn't broken as much as I try to be like, "Ah, I'm tired of this. I want to change that." I kind of go, but it works. So either I have to fluff it up or just accept that it works and it talks to my clients that I want. So I do love to just watch what other people do. I mean, even from movies and different websites and things, I love to hear how other people are talking so I can get a language change, a different dialogue. It's
Yeah.
those kind of little nuggets that keep me going, because I'm a people watcher. So I even just, when I sit at a restaurant, I kind of watch people's body language, how they're interacting. I watch to see how someone's approaching someone that they're attracted to. And so by doing that, I then will put that often into my content. So I just observe the world is a lot of how I get new ideas, for sure.
Yes, that's pretty good. Hey, what is your greatest fear and how do you manage fear?
That's a good one. I had a really difficult window of time early in my business where I attracted some very unhappy people, and they looked at me to save everything. And it got just exhausting, depleted, ran me out of energy. So I had a fear of that happening again. And then I was able to realize what I did wrong, and it wasn't a negative wrong. It was just, this is why I attracted those people. And that's like when you say, you invested and you lost all this money, and there's that feeling of failure, but it's really not, because you can't learn from it. Like, I would never have understood I had to set clear boundaries if I hadn't had this group of people that overdid the boundaries, and they over needed me in a way that was unrealistic. And that helped me to realize I need to have my own boundaries. So that's how I keep in balance to not let that happen again, is
Mhm.
by setting stronger boundaries. And then that also helps them better in their relationships, because my boundaries are examples that set their boundaries for their dating. So it helps me know how important that is. So it's not just about me setting this like stay away attitude. It's more of like, no, this is what I do. This is what you do. And if we're clear, then I don't have to have that fear of that happening again. But I
Mhm.
had to change my behavior in order to get a different result. And that was really important to do.
Yeah, thanks for sharing out.
Yeah.
What are your ideals like change? Like what you look for changes in anything in what you do right now?
I think the big thing that I'm really working on right now is, ideally, I'd like people to be more communicative and kind. People, especially with the dating app world, they're just so used to swiping and just looking at a picture and
Yeah.
judging people on such little teeny pieces of information. I'm like, it's like a billboard going by. And to me, I want people to care enough to say, who are you? Can I know you? Can I talk with you? and learn from them and get out of their own way with their ego. Like people are so much ego that they miss out on just the simple, beautiful gestures of loving on a new person. They spend too much energy proving, they want to prove to the world that there's nobody out there. I get this all the time. Well, there's probably nobody for me, so I shouldn't sign up. Well, then there won't be anyone for you because you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm really trying to open people's eyes, because I've matched all types of people and I've impressed myself even when I've been thinking it would be difficult. But it's all about how people are willing to show up. So that's something I really, really working on changing, where people can just learn to trust and be a little more vulnerable.
Mhm.
There's cool people out there.
I know a lot of amazing people, but you
Yeah.
gotta, get out of that zone and try to open yourself
Hmm.
to new things. So yeah,
Exactly.
that is cool. So how do you define success?
You know, I mean, the pocketbook, it's nice when you got money in the bank and that feels like
Right.
success. That's what society taught us. I find success really comes down to how I live my whole life. If I can sleep at night, if my, fridge is full of food, my kids are good and happy and healthy, and I have good positive relationships and I keep adding new clients, that's success to me. Because the money will come and go. And I've been paid by clients that have been headaches, and I've been paid by clients that have been the easiest things in the world. The money will come and go. We can always find money for what we really want. And same thing as clients want to hire us or not. It's the willingness to show up. So I feel so strongly that it's how I live my life. If I'm surrounded by people that don't appreciate me, then I'm not in a successful place. It doesn't matter if I got a bunch of money in the bank. It matters how the world sees me and how I am being appreciated. And that makes a big difference, because that's the true part of where life is really at. So yeah.
Totally agree with that. I would say
Hmm.
that. Do you believe there is some sort of pattern or formula to become a successful entrepreneur?
I do think that there is a commitment that how you go into it makes all the difference. Like when I started my matchmaking business, I had never even matched a single friend. Like it wasn't something I had any clue, but I had actually, we were since divorced, but I had met my husband through a similar type service at the time, whatever it was 20 years before. And so I had some ideas, and I think that we need a little inside scoop on it, whether we actually have done the service or not. So even though I hadn't matched, I had been around this other dating agency, and then I also came back and I did makeup for it. So I watched people for years. And so I had something, and I think you need some kind of a connection to it. It has to come from a heart place, because you need to want to do it if you have no money and
Yeah.
you're tapped and you're overwhelmed. And so I think too often people just sign up to a great business idea instead of coming from a place where it really motivates and inspires them. Somebody who's teaching fitness has to also love it themselves. They have to be part of that, and it has to matter because it has to ooze from your pores. And some people say don't go into business with your passion because you'll burn out. Well, that's your mistake. You need to love what you're doing, and then you can have other passions too. So yeah, my big part of that is also know it's not overnight success. Nobody really wants, there's love at first sight, but you still then have to learn how to work together. You teach people how to communicate with you. You set boundaries. You spend time together. You learn if you like how they talk, or how they feel next to you. But that is part of the process. So we have to give ourselves patience when it comes to business. And
Mhm.
my thing so much is that, yeah, I started doing daycare when I was young, and I did yogurt business, and I, did the Mary Kay, and I've done other things before this. They all led me to this place. So I don't really believe anyone's a failure until they stop trying. And so as long as you keep trying, you're just trying to find the right formula that works for you, your family. Like all my kids are grown. They are all in long-term, healthy, fabulous relationships. So I have more energy to focus on taking care of what my business needs. But when the kids were younger and I was running around doing all these things, I couldn't give it as much. So that's the thing, is you have to understand your life will be at different stages. And
Uh,
so you can create your formula based on where your life's at.
that is so true. I definitely agree with that right now because I'm in a situation in a
Mhm.
formula creating part because I
Yeah.
have young, young kids and it's
Yes.
to be into this business. I'm into everything, fitness,
Right.
photography,
Hmm.
and now trying to connect, build up a nonprofit organization basically for business people who
Right.
come into business or not even thinking about business or just want to connect with people, a
Exactly.
community like that to connect people. So it's like very hard to do it
It's a
all.
lot. You're always on the idea mode, creativity mode. So it's good.
It's so much of it to do, but it's like, how much do you want it?
Right.
Like how much you want it? What's the time you want to put into it? It's not going to come just like that. It's going to
No,
take time. It's going to
you
take a
won't
lot of
appreciate it
work.
either.
It's going to take a lot of work, effort, everything to do to come up with that idea. And hopefully someday, not hopefully, someday it will get some.
Someday.
Yeah.
And you never know how it's going to actually pay off. It'll just
Mhm.
will because of your consistency, and you'll find it out when it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, bring us to what is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur? What is your favorite part of it all? Just having.
I love that I can do whatever the frickin' I want to do.
I know, hey man.
That is the key. Like last fall, because of COVID, a friend just said, "Hey, do you want to go live in Mexico?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And
That's
for a month, we ended up staying for almost 3 months, and nobody
I
in
do that.
do it. Yeah, high five to that. Oh God, it was good. But I had dreamed about doing this for years. I just had never done it. And then when I did it, I was like, I still made actually more money when I was gone because I was away from my day-to-day routine. I was putting my feet in the Caribbean Sea, so you can't feel amazing by that, then there's a real problem. But it was that feeling of a change of scenery. I could do it. And as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
it really was wonderful because I could just choose to do it. I didn't have to get a boss. I mean, my friend, she wasn't supposed to, so nobody knew she even did it. And so we just worked virtual. And that's the thing is that as an entrepreneur, I can just go, you know what? I actually feel like going somewhere else right now.
That's
And I
right.
did it and it worked.
Let's go. Okay, I'm getting my bag. Let's go.
Exactly. Oh, I'm about ready to go again. It was so good.
You don't have to ask for your, a day off for 2 weeks or whatever.
No, not at all.
Just like, okay, I'm ready to go. I will see you later.
Yeah, I was completely peace out of here. And what I loved so much about it was I was able to actually give more to my clients because I just walked in the sand and they'd get on the Zoom call and they're like, you just seem really happy. And I'm like, yeah, because I got this wonderful suntan glow. I was glistening because it's warm while they're trying to put sweaters on. And I could do my job even better because of it. And that's what we have to remember. We have to fill ourselves up and try different things, but you can really do it as an entrepreneur. So yeah.
Absolutely. Good, good. That's a good one. This one's kind of similar to what we just asked, but what has been the most satisfying moment in being business?
I would say the most satisfying moment for me is when a client just surrenders to my professional advice
Mm.
and doesn't argue, doesn't challenge because they're used to being in control, that they let that happen and then they're with their person. I remember a gal who had said to me one time, um, she goes, I'm sick and tired of giving guys my phone number. Can you please just physically be there for the introduction? And she had been doing dating apps before she hired me. And so
Mhm.
I said, sure, absolutely. I'll meet you. We met at a coffee shop. And it was great because he walks in and he looks her from head to toe. And girls always look toe to head. And so I'm watching this happen. And then she's like, he was totally understanding that he did not want, she didn't want to share numbers ahead of time. They went on their date. I get a message from her the next day saying, I gave him my phone number. And they were married like a year later. They've had a kid. And so it's like, creating a safe space for her allowed that. And it allowed him to really show up. And then she already knew, like my clients often tell me a date with one of my clients is like date number 3, because I already know the person. I might have met them in person and broken bread. We've laughed. So they feel more emotionally available. They can be more vulnerable, where when people date through a dating app, you have no idea what you're showing up to. And
Oh,
so
no.
that's where my satisfaction really is when somebody just lets me do my job and then
Just
we can all
that.
benefit. Yeah.
That's
And
what
then
you're paying me for.
they're
Yeah,
together.
that's what you're paying me for. Let me do my job.
Exactly. Duh.
Okay, what piece of advice would you give to colleague graduating who want to become an entrepreneur? Do you have any advice for people out
I
there?
think that's
Thinking-
great. You know, it's even if you are with a college degree and people think, oh, now you need to go get that 9 to 5. I don't think you need to. The education you got from college is great. Like I was a solo parent. I had to stop college to take care of my child. And then I never went back to it. And I'm good with it. But most of my clients don't realize that because they think because of my success, I must have all these degrees. And it's like, no, I've learned it as I go. And that's where it's important for entrepreneurs to understand whether you have a degree or not, just do what you do. And so those with the degree, it's okay if you want to become an entrepreneur and not just start at some corporate level, that you can actually build up to that. But all that knowledge, all the education, now they need to learn street smarts, because that's the challenge. I talked to a coach recently. She has a ton of degrees, so she thought she could become a coach, and she actually is not a very good coach because she's so book smart. She didn't
Mhm.
do the other. So as educators, it's really important to also know the people, get in the field, do that work so you can start to hear from them, not just what the book and the course taught you, but to actually work with the people. And I think that's what's so important. And then all those money management courses, getting the, business degrees are really important. Just get the human touch to it. That's the one thing I find that people with the education do great, but often don't have the human touch.
Mhm.
That's what I've had most often. So just, whether that means go volunteer somewhere that has a likeness to what you do so you can get to know people that will receive that service, I
Mhm.
feel that'll make a huge impact.
Yeah, and sometimes they're not even engaging. They
Yeah,
don't know how to communicate with someone. So
it's
all
very
that.
true. It's hard but true. So
Mhm.
it's a skill you can't learn in class. It's something you have to learn doing life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. Yeah. If you had the chance to start your career over again, what will you do differently?
I finally realized what I would do differently. It took me a long time. And what I would do differently is I would not try to help everybody. That has been hard. I was, middle child of 8 kids. There's got to be something for everyone. Let me figure it out. And that's my lesson I'm working really, really hard on right now, because I just feel for my people. I want everybody in love. I want everyone happy. I want them to all know how gorgeous and beautiful they are. And I finally am realizing that's where my burnout, that's when I get tired. That's when I have nothing to give, because I can't. And not everybody wants what I have to offer.
Mhm.
Some people just want that handout. Some people are just so caught in poverty that they just assume that everyone will give to them. And it's just not my job to help everybody. I can't. There are plenty of other services that can help different people. So that is probably the number one thing that I don't know if you can even do right from the beginning, because it's hard to know what your value ratio
Exactly.
is. But
Mhm.
that's the one thing that I would highly recommend for people, just to step back and go, okay, who are my ideal clients? If I could work with my favorite clients, who would they be? And how do I find more of them?
Mhm.
And I had to get real with that and just go, okay, the people that I've had the most joy with, and really in your first 1 to 3 years, you can get a pretty good idea of the people you like working with. And I don't really believe you have to have the annoying, nasty people as clients just to pay your bills and be nice, because there are just some people that actually don't want all your awesomeness, and they need to go to somebody else. It's okay to say, I don't think I can service you. I don't think I can take care of that need. So getting ideal clients is really, really important. And just being honest, who do you like
Mhm.
working with?
True.
And
True.
that's okay, because the cool kids should hang out together.
Yes, too.
Yes, for sure.
What will you say the top three skills needed for a successful entrepreneur? Top three skills.
I like that. I think the first thing, tenacity. You just got to keep trying. You got to keep working the formula. You just got to keep going. There has to be no quit, no fail, no give up. And communication is huge, because you learn how to talk differently. I mean, I sure learned a lot of that when I did my Mary Kay career, of just how do you give a compliment? How do you give a critique? How to explain to people what they need to do differently? And people really suck at communication. Like dating wise, they suck at it. Trying to encourage people, they suck at it. The self talk communication is really bad. And the other part, I think, is just, I would probably go to love of self. You need to love yourself. You need to remember how incredible you are, because without you providing the service, it wouldn't be available.
Mhm.
So you need to remember you're bringing something unique to the world, and that is so valuable. So whether it's a gratitude journal that you do, whether you make the point to take the walks, go out with lunch with friends, do things, buy yourself some luxury fun things every once in a while, go get some pamper treats, because you need to remember how important you are to the equation. That, at one point I tried to sell my business. I was like, cool, I'll do this for a few years, I'm going to sell it. And I had a lady that worked for me for years. She found great matches for clients. She was awesome. But when I sold it, she was a great staff member. She was not a business leader. She totally tanked, and I had to come back and scoop it back up,
Oh,
because as much as she was a great assistant and staff member, she was not a business owner. So my people were all thrown off, and then they never wanted to go to appointments with her because they were so attached to me. And I had burnt out for a while. And so by selling it, I thought, okay, I'm good, I'm done. And then it was like, no, they came because of me. They came because of what I offer. So I had to find what that rhythm was, and
mhm.
learning how to find that balance, and realizing that what I provided was very unique and it couldn't just be replaced. And
Abs-
that was really important to me to see that.
Absolutely. And we're all different in our own ways. Again, like you're saying, she was so good in other things, but she
Oh
was,
my gosh, she was phenomenal. I was like, this is incredible. She was such a great staff member. I was like, whoa, but not a business owner.
yeah. And also the other part that you touch on is like loving yourself, getting to know
Hmm.
yourself is very
Yeah,
important, because if you're not, how can you please other people
exactly.
what they want? So that was a good one.
Good. I'm glad.
What entrepreneurial risk tricks have you discovered to keep you focused and productive in your day-to-day schedule?
I think the biggest thing is to realize you don't have to spend all this extra money to keep your business going. I
Yeah.
know I used to sign up for a lot more services, a lot more programs, a lot more software, stuff that I felt I needed
Mhm.
that you don't. And that's where the problem is. People create such big overheads that they're working for that. Like I had multiple staff members at one point, and I was spending so much energy to keep the big office, to pay all these staff members, to get enough sales to cover all of that. And then when I slipped all that away, my service actually went up and my skill set went up, because I wasn't spending time really working for my staff, because I was trying to make sure everybody else was taken care of. So I think it's really important to just honestly look at your budget, because there are so many things I spent money on just because I thought I'm an entrepreneur. I'm supposed to pay all these fees. And actually, this morning I noticed I was going through some old emails, and I saw this one service that I had signed up for that was like $400 a month. And I remember when I signed up for it, my mental was, oh, I'm making all this money, I think I need to buy these things. Like it was just that mentality. And it was a horrible service, and it was supposed to be all this marketing. Well, they kept dropping the ball, and then they let me out of the contract, luckily. But it was more of this feeling like I thought I had to spend because I had it.
Mhm.
But as an entrepreneur, it fluctuates. Like I can have a great month and I can have a bad month. It can have a great day and a bad day. And so it's important to understand your money management and where you're at, but also realize most of this, especially now with our beautiful internet filled world,
Yeah.
the services, we don't need a big fancy office. We don't need a full-time secretary. You can hire services that just answer phones. There's so many ways that we can be more creative and resourceful, so that we don't have to work as hard just to pay bills as we're kind of conditioned to think we need to.
Seriously. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah. What key activity would you recommend entrepreneur to invest their time in? Because as you're starting, you don't know anything like where to go, whatever else. That any key
Right.
you'll recommend for them to invest their
I
time?
think a big thing is to spend time with other entrepreneurs that are at a higher level. The problem is that people end up spending time with equal level, and that is not helping you at all. Don't talk to people that are both at a startup on a regular basis. You need to talk to somebody who's a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years ahead of you. And you got to go where they are. But if you're in that pool, then you're going to be dealing with all the people who are still frustrated, still upset. You have to talk with the people, whether it's a networking event, you're part of a community, it's social media, online, you've got that. And then really look at the different people that of the business fields you like.
Mm.
Read their websites, not to copy anything, of course not, but to
Yeah.
kind of see, how do they discuss, how do they talk about things, how do they language, what do you like? I've had a lot of times I go on other people's sites and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many typos, this isn't professional, and you're doing well. Okay, don't beat yourself up. You don't have to be overly polished, but I think it's really important to find people that are above where you're at. And this is where I think people lose so much momentum as they spend time with their equal. And that's not helping you. So find some mentors. And if there's a business you want to do, ask, hey, can I just work with you, not be paid, nothing extra, but can I just work with you? Can I get 30 days where I just, do some things, whether it's minor work, it's a little helping, maybe assembly line stuff, or maybe it's answering some phone calls or calling some leads, just to get a feel for what it is. I feel like people don't have any pre-knowledge of what they're getting into. They just like the idea and do it, and they don't actually know what it'd be like. So I think I get a lot of people that will say, oh, I want to become a matchmaker. How do I do that? And so, I kind of walk them through the steps. But I think if somebody said, hey, can I make 20 lead calls for you and you give me the script so I can kind of see what people would say, just because I want to learn this, then you would get more real knowledge than just the idea of it.
That's true. Agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Who has been your greatest inspiration? Like somebody out there that inspired you? Is there anyone?
I will go back to my time in Mary Kay, and she was so phenomenal, and I moved up quickly in that business. But I used so many of the skills I got. So I would never do direct sales again, ever, because I did my time. But I think it was a great thing. And there's a lot of businesses out there, but it taught me so much. And so I've used tons of what I learned from Mary Kay's perspective, how she taught people she would focus one person at a time. She had such great communication skills, and everything was very laid out, and it was consistent, but it was heart-based. So she's always the top of what I truly admire in someone that lived her truth, but came from a genuine place.
That's great. Good
Yeah.
for sharing now. What business related book has you inspired you most? What is your favorite book?
Yeah, I've not, like, I've written my own novel and I've done things, but I was not a reader as much. And then I finally started doing audibles, and I was just scrolling through and I found this one, Ego Free Leadership. And I will say that transformed me. I would recommend this book over anything.
What's the
It
name of
is so good. It's Ego Free Leadership. Let me see if I can even pull it up. It was such a great book that it was one of those, let's find the title. It's these two guys talking about business and communication and skills. So it's Ego Free Leadership by Brandon Black and Shane Hughes. And I think it was even free on Audibles.
Oh,
But
really?
what was so powerful is that I completely changed how I was receiving the work I do, how I was showing up. And it was realizing that when you work with executives, being that I've never worked corporate America, but a lot of my clients are corporate America. And so listening to how many times we make decisions based on our ego, and how many times we have assumptions that aren't real and legit, and then knowing how to really show up. And it's okay that other people have different insights and perspectives, and that we make so many choices on bruised egos and fear of failure, fear of rejection, that this book was so good. And being a spiritual person, I'm extremely sensitive to other people's energy. So I could expect my ability to communicate or have what they need, where I could step back now after reading this and listening to it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I've been doing this. That's why I get upset, and realize it was my ego that I was concerned about way more than I ever realized. So I've been telling so many people to listen to this book. It
Awesome.
is incredible. So yes,
I will. Yeah,
yeah,
put it on my list.
it's a good one.
If you had a magic stick, which are the three things you would change in the world?
Yep, I like that one. You're like boom, boom, boom. I would absolutely change. Like my first thought, obviously, is a lot more love in the world. I'm all about love, but
Mhm.
non-judgmental love.
Yeah,
I think people need to just let people love whoever they want to love
but
and be loved. And people need touch, they need hugs, they need communication, and just a lot more warmth. I would absolutely just, obviously when I was in Mexico, it was physically warm, but there was a warm energy, and I would want way more of that. And also, I would probably, my third magical wand moment would be is just showing people how much abundance is all around them, and just let people have more food, more comfort, more security, because we spend too much in our lives trying just to make it through the day to survive. But
yeah,
there are enough resources that we could all have so much more.
absolutely agree with that 100%.
Yes.
That's good. What is the part of your life experience you would alter if you had the chance to?
Alter it, change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. You know, I just I feel like I just take one thing as the next thing. Now I know I can travel more, so I'm going to. I felt stuck. I grew up in the city. I stayed here forever, and then living in another place for a few months made me realize I can still do my job and I can do it. So that's kind of my path now, is that I'm wanting to be more mobile is my focus. That I am absolutely realizing I can. I don't have to just dream it, I can do it. So it's taking action on things that I've been wanting for a long time. Because I've talked about it way too long. And then once I did it, I was like, well, that was actually really awesome. And it's a lot more fun to talk about your amazing life than some show you watch that looked really cool. But
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Awesome. Okay, now let's come here. If you were to write a book, what would you name it? What would you name your book and how will you name it? If you write a book, what a name.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I actually did, and it was inspired because of my life. It's When the
Okay.
Angels Spoke.
Okay.
So I released that novel last year, and it's a lot of my spiritual work.
Mhm.
And so it's a romance novel, but it's all inspired by the spiritual work I do. So that is a big one. And then I have written a bunch of workbooks for my clients. So I would say that was something I actually started working on. I think it was at least 25 years that I worked on this novel. Like I wrote it, forgot about it, came back to it. My angels bugged me to get back to it. I'd forget about it, come back to it. And then I finally did that last year. So that book is out there, and it's been really a powerful part of just being vulnerable to what's my message is. And those that read it, great. If not, but at least I know I did it. And I think it's important everybody writes a book that they're
That's
called to do.
that is great. Oh my
Yeah.
God, you write your own book. That's
I
awesome.
know, it was a big one. It was a lot, but it was pretty darn cool.
Yay! So this will be a wrap. I just wanted to say thank you so
Yes.